Anders Petterson is with me in the studio now. So a collector's feeling a little more cautious.
I think the feeling is a sort of a sense of hesitance. I think the economic situation has changed quite dramatically since June, and I think the art market has had an incredible recovery since 2008. I mean, we've seen basically volumes and the sales value back to what we was in the peak of 2008. I think since then, obviously August and so forth has kind of created a sense that it's beyond just sort of sizzling economic problems. I think there's something on this doorstep now.
And it's precisely the same thing that I've heard from other investors in this particular area, if you like, saying that it wasn't, we had seen something of a recovery. Are we now starting to see more of a correlation then between a deterioration in economic sentiment in general and the art market responding to that, if you like?
Now, I think there is a bit sort of a change probably over the last 10 years where you're seeing sort of kind of moving from a collector-led market to more of an investor-led market, which obviously the investor-led market I think will tend more to follow the financial market. So I think there's going to be, going forward, at least for certain segments of the market, a more correlation between the art market and financial markets.
All right, so what does that mean, that it's going to get worse before it gets better?
I think what we're starting to see now is there's been sort of a division in the art market where the very top end of the market, the sort of $1 million+ items, the very sort of unique and more established artists seems to do pretty well. And if you look at the auctions this week, you know, there's been a sort of concentration around those lots, and I think they will do okay. I think it's further down the price segments within sort of 100 to 500 and below, which kind of will suffer.
I mean, the Frieze event is sort of a bellwether for how the market's doing in general. How do you think these auctions are going to go?
I think yesterday it was Philips was the first one out, and as it's the smallest auction house, it's very difficult to sort of say exactly how much of that is of an indication. It came in at the low or a little bit below the low estimate, but if you look at that compared to last year, still 50% more. So I think the expectation probably has been a little bit too high going into this season, and the actual reality is probably a little bit lower.
The interesting thing is that your recent interim sentiment poll by your company ArtTactic says that the art market could start to feel the pinch in the next 6 months. What does that suggest to us about how confident many wealthy collectors and investors are feeling about the outlook right now?
I think there is a real sense of pessimism, because a part of the indicator is also sort of sentiment, the actual economic side of things, and that has basically fallen to rock bottom. I think there was a sense that, you know, the question about is art a store of value, and I think that still is a question mark. You know, if everything goes wrong, will art still hold up? I think. Is
it really a credible alternative investment right now?
No, I think it is a very specific asset class.
Yeah.
It's an alternative asset class. It's not the mass market. This is for the ultra-high net worth individuals. For certain artists, I do think the value will hold up. I mean, if you were sitting with one of the most unique, best Picassos in the world, if you have the opportunity to sit for the next 10 years, the value will probably be the same, if not more.
Why is the art market becoming more vulnerable to economic uncertainty now?
I do think it's a little bit, as I mentioned before, I think there is a sort of a change in the collector base. That the number of people, and I think just the visiting figures at Frieze shows, you know, you have 60,000 people entering into this market. I mean, I think if you went into the sort of 70s, 80s, the type of people involved in the contemporary art market were connoisseurs, collectors, many of them with a very long-term outlook. I think the composition has changed. We have
more from emerging markets?
Emerging markets, it's definitely. I don't think emerging markets are big players in the Western market yet, but obviously China in itself as a market is big. But I just think generally you have new people are being engaged in contemporary art. As partly the museums, you see the number of shows. There's a kind of it's a scene which a lot of people want to be part of.
As we see this sort of shift in wealth, if you like, to emerging markets, and you know that's the place where many companies are trying to increase their exposure, at least boost their presence. What needs to be done? What do the big companies in this particular market need to do to reach out and engage those consumers, investors in that part of the world? How difficult a task is that? I
think it's, well, I think the auction houses, obviously, the big companies within the art market that is already have, you know, a very established base in Hong Kong in particular, and I think that's the position they like to reap the benefits of what's happening in China. I think there's a lot of benefits also, a lot of galleries moving into the mainland China to set up, to try to cultivate. I think it's a long-term, over long term I think things will happen, but at the moment I think the focus is very much Chinese is focusing on their own art, whether that's antiquities down to contemporary.
All right, Anders Petterson, thanks very much indeed, founder and director of ArtTactic.